my name is Alissa Myers, and I'm in the Intro to International Studies class. For this assignment, I'm going to be comparing two movies, and they are The Blind Date and LoLo. They are both French movies that are centered around love. First, I'm going to be talking to you about Blind Date and kind of giving you a little summary of it. Blind Date is about a man and a woman that are neighbors. The woman moves into an apartment and she starts to think that her apartment is haunted because her neighbor, which is a man, he starts to mess with her pictures on the wall and make weird noises and just make her think that the apartment is haunted. Eventually, she finds out that it is him, and she decides to be really noisy and play her piano super loud and do really noisy things. Eventually, they make a pact and they make a schedule of when each other is going to do certain things. Eventually, they fall in love because they talk every day and they end up doing stuff together without actually ever meeting each other. They just talk to each other through the wall. Eventually, her piano teacher comes over and he ends up scaring him off by making him think the place is haunted and doing mean things to him. And this really made her mad and upset, so they got in a fight. He made up to her by coming to her piano competition. At the competition, he never saw her, but he encouraged her to do her best. And then he comes home and he breaks through the wall, and that is how they meet. In LoLo, it's also a French love movie, and there's a man and a woman who meet when the man accidentally drops a fish that he caught on the lady. And in this movie, the son plays a big part of the movie. And the man's name is Jean Rene, and the woman is Violet. The son is Eloy in the movie. So in this movie, the son is always trying to play mean tricks on the man who is dating his mother. One of the things that he does is put itching powder in his clothes. Another thing that he did was he drugged him while he was at a party with his mother. And then the last thing that he did was put two girls in his bed, and they were there when his mother got home so that she would find them. And he also ruined his work project. So eventually the mother and the boyfriend find out that it's the son, and the mother ends up leaving the son, and they end up working their relationship out. Question?
In what ways was romance sustained despite difficult barriers?
The barrier in The Blind Date would have been the wall. Romance was still achieved because they talked to each other every day and they did stuff together without ever actually meeting each other. At one point, they actually got to the point where they had their beds up against the wall because they were so close. And then the barrier in LoLo would be the son because he was always playing mean tricks on the boyfriend. And they moved past it because the mother always forgave her boyfriend, and they ended up having a really good relationship in the end.
Okay, what about betrayal?
Betrayal is seen in the son in LoLo because he is always betraying his mom and her boyfriend by trying to ruin their relationship and just causing his mother to be unhappy. In The Wall, the betrayal is seen when the man, which is Clovis, scares off her piano teacher, and her name was also Melanie in that movie. But they work their problems out because he ends up coming to her piano competition and she forgives him, and they eventually meet. And they had romance because of all the stuff that they did together and just talking to each other.
Okay, what about self-discovery?
Self-discovery was seen in The Blind Date because both of them had their own hobbies. The woman's hobby was piano, and she just kind of expressed herself in that. And the man, his hobby was to create games, and he was very smart, and he enjoyed just kind of being to himself and discovering himself in that way. Self-discovery is seen in LoLo because they both have jobs that they work really hard at. The woman's job was a fashion designer, and she focused all of her time on that. And the man's job was working with computers and doing stuff like that. So they both discovered themselves in each movies.
What other comparisons did you see in each of these movies?
Some comparisons that I saw were that they were both French movies. They both had subtitles because they were in French. And in both movies, there were two women, the main character and then her best friend. And they were both single and trying to find men. So I thought that was kind of a similarity in both movies.
What was your favorite thing about each movie?
My favorite thing about each movie was that their love worked out in the end for both movies, and they both kind of had some comedy to them, which I liked.
Okay, and how do you relate to these movies, or do you relate to these movies?
I can kind of relate because love is difficult, and I think that's one way that I could relate to them. So, in all, both movies were very great, and I think they both had a lot of similarities to them. Keep talking.